everyone, welcome to another Rick's Picks. Today I'm going to be doing my review of the Griffith figure by Bandai from the hit manga Berserk. So I'm a big Berserk fan. I really am looking forward to doing a review on this figure and what have you. Obviously, you love them or you hate them. If you're a big fan of the franchise, you know why. So just remember, if you do like this video, go ahead and check out my Berserk playlist and hit that like, share, and subscribe. So, without any further ado, let's get to the review. Alright, so here he is in packaging. I love the packaging for this. This looks really nice. So, first off, you got Bandai Namco here. SH Fig Arts up there. And you have the official load badges down here. You always look for these when you buy any of these type of figures, because your knockoffs will not have these on there. So always look for that anytime you buy any kind of Bandai figures or what have you. You always want to look for these type of things on these packaging. So also you got this nice picture of Griffith on his horse. I really do like that. Now this isn't the Band of the Hawk Griffith. This is actually the Band of the Light Griffith. So this is the one, the outfit that he wore after the eclipse and everything. So this is a really nice looking piece of art. I really like that. And then here you have a window so you can see him, some of the horse, some of his head sculpts, his name here. Like I said, they call this Hawk of the Light. If you actually go by the manga, it's actually the Falcon of the Light. So it depends, you know, how particular you are with that. You got Berserk here in the corner. All right, spin to the side. Get this nice looking picture of Griffith on the horse. Actually, this looks like it should actually go this way, like that, even though the writing is going in the opposite direction. Spinning around here. You got each of his face sculpts and his helmet. You get a couple of pictures of him on the horse, and him on the horse again. Then you got some legal underneath here. Switch it around here. Got this nice picture of Griffith. Switch it around to the top. You got him on the horse. And then underneath you got an iconic back shot of Griffith. So, with all that being said, let's open them up and see what they're about. So here he is out of packaging. He's a beautiful looking figure. I love the detail to him. So first off, we're going to start with the rotation. So you have the front. You have this side here. Let's move the cape out of the way a little bit so you can see a little bit of these details. All right. You have the back, and we're going to get more into how the back looks when we start looking at his details up close. All right. Then you have this side here. And back around to the front. Now he doesn't, excuse me, he doesn't have pegs in his feet, so I can't use my standard stands, but he seems to stand pretty well, so we're going to see how that works with him. So now let's start looking at his details up close. First off, I do love the head sculpt. I think the head sculpt looks really nice. I love the detail into it, all the way down into his armor. So you move this cape out of the way here. The armor looks beautiful. I love, like, you have the falcon crest here. The same with when you move his arm up. You have the scabbard for his sword. You got the falcon crest there as well. You have wings and stuff all up and into his armors. The same with his leg pieces here, so you can see more wing design and so forth, all the way down to the detail to his stirrups. All right, we're gonna lift his cape up. There we go. And that back armor looks beautiful. I love how it has the back of the falcon on the back of his armor. That looks really nice. Even down to here on the bottom part of his armor. And in this arm, you also have more of your falcon looking wing art and what have you. All the way even down into his gloves, which is really nice. So there's a lot of really good detail to this figure. I like the overall detail to him. Oops. Get him to stay standing. So now let's start getting into points of articulation. So first off, as you can see, the cape does move. And what it is it's a cloth cape with a wire frame in it. So that means you can move this cape however you want. So if you want it like this, or if you want it bent around them, so you can kind of get like, you know, more majestic look out of them or something like that. You can do it. So this cape is really flexible. And I'm liking this because if I remember right, with the actual Guts figure, usually the capes are the worst part of these figures. His was just, I think, pretty bad if I remember right. So they actually did a nice job on Griffith's cape. They didn't do so much of a good job on Guts's, if I remember right, when I did that review. So now that we looked at the cape and how that moves, let's look at some of the other stuff. So first off here, the hair does move. All right, so there's actual articulation in the hair. All right, spin them around this way. The head moves. All right, so you got head movement. Get the cape out of his way. You got a shoulder joint with a swivel. You got an elbow joint. And you do have a wrist joint. Get the arms up. Ooh, tell me. Okay, no, that just popped out. Whew, I was scared there for a minute. I thought that actually broke, but no, it just popped out of the socket here. And that just pops right back in. I noticed that about some of these figures, that some joints will pop out of a socket pretty easily, but then they get put right back in without issue. I'll be honest with you, if this was an American-made toy, I'd probably be really scared right now. So let me put that back in here just like this. Pop right back into the socket. So now that we got the arms back into their sockets, like I said, they pop out pretty easily, but they pop right back in. And I'd rather have a figure do something like that instead of like the shoulder joint actually breaking, because that's an even worse day. So now there is a torso joint here right at the belt line. So that moves. All right, so you got back and forth, up and down, and what have you. Spin them around this way. You got a thigh joint with a swivel. All right, you got a knee joint. You got an ankle joint. And you also have a toe joint. So everything works pretty well with him. I don't have any issues with any of his joints. They're very nice, very fluid. His locks did come off. These are removable. And I'll get a little bit more into that when we start going into his accessories. But pretty much they just come back into the side here. So, boom. This one on here like this. And then the other one on the other side. At least, I think. Those are right. So the locks are back on without any issues. Start looking at his accessories. So he comes with a lot of different things. So first off, he has his iconic helmet. All right. He also has a lock of hair. I believe this is actually for the helmet. He has two extra faces. So he has this face here. And also he has this face here with a little bit of hair in front of it. He comes with a couple of hands. So he has two holding hands. One. Got the other side of it. And two. All right. He also has this hand here, which looks like actually that's another holding hand. All right. And he has two open hands. So he has this one here. And he also has this one. comes with a sword. He also comes with a hilt. Now, this is one of the things I don't like about some of these Bandai figures is the factor that instead of having the sword go in and out of the sheath, you just take on and off the hilt. Now, I don't like that because that's just one more piece of something that's going to sit around somewhere. And that's just a personal preference. And then last but not least, you have the cover for the sword. And that's all the accessories for him. Now you have your horse here. It has two accessories that come with it. So you have this part of the reins. Alright. And you also have that one. Now normally I would do the horse a little bit separate as its own. But unfortunately, with this horse, it doesn't do anything. So let's take a look at the horse. So here's the front, this side, got your back, and then your back around to this side. All right. And this horse has no points of articulation. So what you see is what you get. It stays just like that. And I find that to be a little bit of a disappointment, especially for the price point of this figure. You would want the horse to at least do something. Maybe some head movement. Maybe you can move the leg so you could get it into like a charge position or something. But no, the horse is, as you see, it's just a prop for the figure. And I find that to be a little bit disappointing. Now, with the reins, you got two holes up in here. So you got this one here and that one there. And the reins are supposed to fit into there. All right, I don't know how easily or how well they're going to fit in there. All right, so let's start with this side first. All right, so that one went in pretty easily. No issues. And then this one here goes on this side. And if you're not sure how to put these on or where they're supposed to go, on the box there is directions for these. There it goes. Okay. So there you go. The reins are in. And now the horse is ready for Griffith to ride him. So let's start looking at how well these accessories work. So first off, let's start with the head stuff. So the hair comes off. The head comes down. All right. Then you could do these alternate heads. Now, this is what I was telling you about the locks. So as you can see, there's holes on either side of the head. So that way, you could put the locks right onto the sides. So the face fits on like that. The hair goes up on here like this. Just like that. And then the locks go on either side. And that's even if you want the locks on. Now that's purely like, you know, how you want to display them. But that one goes on this side. This one goes on this side. So now you have the head with the locks. This one I think is actually for the helmet. So let's take this head off. Eventually, there it goes. So when you look at the helmet, all right, you do have an open piece here that pops off. Apparently everything pops off with this figure at this point in time. So this head kind of, I guess you do have to pop that up like that. All right, that one don't work with that. Definitely not that one. Oh yeah, it is this one. Okay. So how do you get that, oops, in there? Now that's the question. helmet come apart. Alright. This is interesting. Trying to figure out how you get that head in there. It looks like the helmet should come up. There it goes. All right, so that goes like this. So now you have the face in there. The helmet does pop down in here. Just like that. So now you have the face inside the helmet. And then you have the guard. And you spin around to the back here. You have this little hole there where the hair kind of fits in. Take that off like that. All right, now we get the head back on here. Hopefully. So this is definitely a little bit more complicated than I think it should be. You know, I'm trying to work this head into here, trying to work this all about. I think it might have been easier if it was just like a one piece. And then, all right. So now, kind of got the head together here. Put the helmet on there. All right. So now, after playing with it, there's the helmet with the head inside of it. And you can just lift up the shield there. Now you got the face. I kind of feel like this should have been just one piece. Would have made life easier because I don't think these other two heads are designed. No, they're not. They're not designed to go into the helmet. So why they go through all this complicated thing with putting a new head in there when that should have just been one solid head? I think they made it a little bit more complex than it needed to be. But with that being said, let's start now looking at his hands and how they work with his accessories. So pop that hand off. Came off pretty easily. We have a holding hand here. All right. And see that? And I say this over and over again in these videos. I'm not a big fan of the peg going into the hand opposed to a peg going into the wrist. Just because, as you see, this is moving around on me. And it's making it a little bit difficult to try to get that hand in there. And this is most 9 out of 10 times usually Japanese companies that do this. I think the only other American line that I know that really does this is the Joy Toy Warhammer figures. We'll get back to that one in a second. Let's try one of these open hands first. That's really fighting me. All right. There we go. All right. So I got an open hand on here. Let's try again another one of these holding hands on this hand here. All right. You could probably really wanted to use heat on this and just to open up those hands just a little bit. All right. So I got that holding hand on there as well. So after a little bit of playing with it, the hands do work. Now let's try to get this sword in here. All right, sword fits fine. Let's get the cover for the sword. All right, so there you go. Get the sword in there. No issues with any of that. And let's try to get another one of these holding hands on here. All right. Like I said, this is really fighting me. Because, like I said, this keeps on wanting to move. So every time I try to apply a little bit of pressure, the wrist wants to move out of the way. There it goes. I think I got it. All right. So now I was able to get one of the holding hands in there as well. Now, when you lift up his arm, you got your sword here. So if you want to display it with the actual sword in the case, all right, you just goes this way. Oops. All right. And that just slides in there like that. And then you can take the buckle and put that on there as well. So there you go. That's on there as well. And like I said, I'm not a fan of that style of hilt, just because I really do feel like it just gives you more pieces than you'll ever need. You know, unfortunately. Put that on there, just like that. So see this. So that's how that would hook in there, and that don't even want to hook in there that well either. So there it goes. And then it'll go back into the scabbard. Like I said, that just creates more pieces for you to, have to mess around with. So now, let's see how well he works on the actual horse. You get him on the horse. Right? You have your cord here that he's supposed to be able to hold. All right. So that goes on there like this. All right. The feet into the stirrups. All right. So he got his sword. He has the feet in the stirrups. All right. His cord back in here. All right. Oh man. Two. Let's put it like this. All right. Now we just lost a hand. All right. Okay, so the reins I put on off screen, and the reason why I did that was just because they kept on fighting me. So like I would start getting it into the hand here, and then all of a sudden this part would come out. So then I'd put this part in, and then the hand. So I had to play with it and mess with it for a minute, but after I stopped, messed around with it for a little bit, I finally got them in there. So it's something you'll have to gizzy gooch with, but it will work. The feet went into the stirrups very easily. So other than some getting the reins together pretty difficult and the head being a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, for the most part, all the accessories fit fine with him. Now he comes with one more accessory that's worth mentioning, and that he comes with this blue screen here. And what this is just a bunch of pictures of the Ballad of the Kings. So a lot of dark and twisted pictures of that. So I think that's a neat little addition to this figure. So my final thoughts for this figure is he's okay. All right, there's a lot of good things about him, and there's a couple disappointing things with him. So first off, the overall look is great for this figure. I love the overall look to him. He definitely captures the look from the manga. I don't have any issues with that, both with the figure and Griffith himself. All his joints move very well. I don't have any issues with his joints moving. His arms did pop off pretty easily, and I think that's kind of a plus, but not a plus, because if you're bending them in a way and you don't like it, it's better that they pop off instead of breaking. And the arms just pop back on pretty easily, so that's not a major issue with me. The hands swapped out pretty easily for the style that they are. I was never a big fan of the peg going into the hand opposed to the peg going into the wrist, because as you see in this video, the wrist wants to move,
and it's sometimes hard to just line up that hand with the wrist. Now, earlier I was talking about the helmet. I was wondering why they're doing all this complicated stuff with putting the head in the helmet and, all when it could have been a head sculpt. And then I realized the reason why they did that is because so you can display him with the helmet without the face in it. So if you want it sitting on his lap while he's on the horse or whatever, you could do that without having a face in it. So it makes sense. It's still a little bit overcomplicated, but in the end, after you play with it, it does work. Me personally, and this isn't a problem with the figure, it's just the way they do things. I don't like when they just give you the handle that goes into the sheath opposed to the full sword. I think it just makes unnecessary pieces that are going to wind up sitting in a box somewhere that you're never going to use. So, yeah, I always didn't like that about these figures. And it's not just him. Even my One Piece figures are the same. Like my Zoro, they do the same thing where the handles for the swords just sit in the sheath. It's not the full sword. So I was never a big fan of that. If that's a neither here or there for you, then it works for you. Now, my big disappointment with this figure is the horse. All right. And the reason why the horse is a big, disappointment is there is no points of articulation to this. It is as you see it. It's just a model. It kind of reminds me of the, horse toys you used to get for like $5 at the, five and dime or something, that you just put with your toys and stuff that, don't move, don't do anything. It just sits there. And that's what this horse reminds me of. And the reason why it's so disappointing because of the price point, you should get an articulated horse with him. All right. I got the Headless Horseman from Four Horsemen, and he's a little bit cheaper, but the horse has all sorts of points of articulation. You can pose him differently. And you would kind of want that with this. I mean, yeah, a lot of times it's usually him, pompously marching around town, but when he goes into battle, you may want to get him and his horse into a battle position or something, like maybe the horse on the hind legs or something like that. And you can't do none of that with this. So the horse is the biggest disappointment of this set. Now, if you're a diehard Berserk fan, you're going to want to buy this regardless of what you think of the horse. Especially because this is after the eclipse. So this is Griffith as the Hawk of Light, not, the Banded Hawk, or if you go by the manga, the Falcon of Light, opposed to the Falcon of the Banded of Falcon. Yeah, if that made sense. But it looks like they're making a lot of figures that are coming after the eclipse. So they already have Black Swordsman Guts. They now have Griffith, Falcon of the Light. They also have, I think, Shuri and also Isidore, which both of those reviews are coming. So they're doing a lot of after the eclipse figures. So I'm hoping that eventually they'll do an after eclipse figure of Casca. Like I was thinking it'd be really cool to have her like in the robes and stuff that she spends a lot of that in. And I think it would be really cool if she came with like the three-legged dog with a coffin and then the broken doll in it. I think that would be a really neat set. And that would be really cool to add and put this collection together. But we'll see what Bandai does with that. So in the end, it's an okay figure. If you're a big Berserk fan, you're going to want it for your collection. If you're a little bit on the fence, you may or may not want him to go with your collection. So with that being said, I hope you all did like this review. If you did, go ahead and check out my Berserk playlist and hit that like, share, and subscribe. And also comment. I really want to hear from you people. I love chatting with you guys. So until the next one, late.